Hello and welcome back to Tech and EduSparkHub, where technology meets education. Remember the quick preview I shared where we check whether a number is odd or even? That was just a glimpse. In today's video, we are diving deeper. I will take you step by step through the full tutorial from the logic behind the odd and even numbers to writing the complete code and finally testing it in real time. If the preview sparked your curiosity, this is where you will get the complete picture. Stick with me to the end and let's get into it. First of all, we have to ask the user what number would you like to check as shown on our preview template. And to do this, since we'll be expecting a response or an input from the user, we can simply use the input function to ask the user what number would you like to check. And we can make the user to make the input on another paragraph by using the backslash and the end character. And this way, the user can be able to make the input on another paragraph. And to get a hold of this user input, you can simply assign this line of code to a variable called number. You can use any variable you want, but I'll be using number in this case because this is easy to read and understand. And since we'll be expecting a whole number input from the user to these lines of code, we can easily declare these lines of code as an integer data type by using the int function in the front of these lines of code. So this way, these lines of code has been declared as an integer data type. And when the user enter a number input, this won't break our code because we have declared it as an integer data type. Don't drop off because this next part is where we'll be checking the number the user input to give them a feedback to let them know if it is odd or even. To check for these conditions, we have to understand a bit more of how the even and odd numbers works. Remember from our school maths that even numbers are numbers divisible by 2 with no remainder. That is, if you divide even number by 2, the remainder will be equals to 0. And on the other hand, odd numbers are number divisible by 2, leaving a remainder of 1. So how can we write this into a program to check for these conditions? And what mathematical operations do we need? To check for these conditions, we can just simply write the if conditional statement first to check if number modulo 2 is equals 0 with a colon at the back of our condition. And this way, when we click on enter on the keyboard, it is going to indent automatically. And remember, indentation is just like pressing the spacebar 4 times on your keyboard. And under this indentation, we can just simply prompt the user to give them a feedback if this condition is true. So if number modulo 2 is equals 0, what is the logic behind this code? How does this works? Remember when we treat the Python mathematical operations, we said a modulo gives the remainder of a division. So if we have something like 7 modulo 3, the answer will be equal to 1 because 7 divided by 3 is equal to 2. And the remainder is 1, which is the work of the modulo. So how does this logic apply to our code? The number in this if conditional statement is standing for whatever number the user will input to these lines of code since we have assigned it as a variable to that code. So if the number modulo 2 is equals 0, which means if the number is divided by 2 and the remainder is equal to 0, then we can assume that the number is an even number according to the definition of even number that we had earlier. So if this condition is true, we can easily prompt the user by using the print function indented under that condition to tell the user this is an even number. To check for the odd numbers, on the other hand, we know that any number you divide by 2, if the remainder is not 0, the remainder will surely be 1. So we don't need to write any code for that. We can just simply use the else conditional statement with a colon, and the else conditional statement doesn't take any input. It is just an opposite of the if conditional statement, which means if this condition is not true, else what do we want to happen? We can just simply indent under that condition by using the print function to prompt the user by telling the user this is an odd number. And this way, we have successfully complete our odd even number check program. But before we run this code, let's go through these lines of code again to understand the logic behind this code. This number in this if conditional statement is standing for whatever inputs the user will enter to these lines of code. So if the number modulo 2 is equals 0, which means what is on the left hand side must be equal to what is on the right hand side. And that is the work of this equals sign, which is a comparison operators. So number modulo 2 will give you 0. That means 0 is equals 0. So if the number modulo 2 is equals 0, it will tell the user what is indented under that condition by telling the user this is an even number, because an even number is a number divisible by 2 with 0 remainder or no remainder. And on the other hand, if the number divided by 2 gives a remainder of 1 or anything, it will jump to this else block because this condition has become false. So it will trigger what is indented under the else conditional statement by telling the user this is an odd number. And this is the logic behind this code. So let's test this code by running it to check if everything is all working good. When I run this code, you can see it asks what number would you like to check, and let me just put any number I want. And when I click on enter, you can see it tells me this is an even number because it has checked the number. So dividing the number by 2, the remainder gives 0. So it is telling me this is an even number. Let me run this code again to enter any number I want. Let me just put another number, and when I click on enter, you can see it tells me this is an odd number because it has checked for both conditions. And when you divide 245 by 2, you can see it will give a remainder of 1, and that is why it is triggering what is indented under this else conditional statement. But we can add a few tweaks to make this code even more interesting by making it to print out the number to tell the user the number is an even number or odd number as seen in our short preview. And to do this, we'll be needing the help of the f string because the f string allows us to combine multiple data types together. And to use this, we can just simply put the f string in front of our string. And this way, instead of writing this, we can just simply change it to the number variable by putting the number in these lines of code. And this way, it will tell us that the number we enter is an even number. And we can simply add the same changes to the else conditional block by putting the f string and putting the number in this f string. And this way, when we run our code again, you can see when I put any number I want, let me just put the number 1256 in this case. And when I click on enter, you can see it outputs the number before telling me if it is an even number or an odd number. You can play around this code and you will see it will always print out the number before telling you what type of number it is. And that is it. Now you know exactly how to build and run an odd even number check program from start to finish. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment if you have any question or ideas for future videos, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next programming lesson. Keep practicing, keep coding, and I will see you in the next one.